What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This here is Legitical Response. We cover political news. We keep you up to date and keep you informed with everything that the government does, because the government is always doing stuff, and we need to know about it, folks. We need to know what the government's doing because that involves our lives. They make the rules. We have to play by those rules, so we need to know what those rules are and how they're implementing these rules, right? And these rules, they're constantly changing, y'all. There's something going on all the time, whether it's the federal government, state governments, local governments, what have you. That's what we need to pay attention to. We need to know our representatives. We need to know who we're voting for, folks, because if the American people knew exactly who they were voting for, I can promise you, by the next election, almost everybody in Congress would be gone, and we'd have all new congressmen, except for about 10, 15 congressmen. We'd have all new senators just about for sure if they knew who these people were, right? You would have probably maybe 5 or 6 Democrats and about 10 Republicans, right? Like, I don't agree with those 5 or 6 Democrats, but at least those 5 or 6 Democrats that I'm talking about are actually genuine and actually are trying to push their interests of their constituents onto the federal government. I don't agree with those interests, but, who am I to argue with that? At least they're genuine, right? There's only a handful of Democrats. They may have some insane views, but that's their views, and at least, like I said, they're genuine about it. But okay, so I don't know if you guys heard the other day. I almost covered this story, but I didn't. Okay, so we found out the other day that the Arizona Supreme Court found an very old, from 1864, abortion ban law on the books that, since the overturning of Roe versus Wade, needs to be enforced. So, boom, out of nowhere, Arizona has an abortion ban that they just happened to figure out, right? Like, I guess it's always been there, but with Roe versus Wade, of course, that was overturned because that was a federal mandate, which, yeah, I'm totally against federal mandates on anything outside of the Bill of Rights, right? So now that the Supreme Court has made that decision, the left is up in arms, right? Of course, they're always up in arms over abortion, and I don't understand that, right? This is one of the things, like, with the left, okay? The left loves to use language to get their points across. It's buzzwords is all it is, right? Like, reproductive health care is one of they use for abortion, right? Like, or a woman's right to choose. But what they leave out from that sentence is a woman's right to choose murder, because that's what it is, right? But a woman's right to choose sounds good. It's a buzz phrase that politicians use this and manipulate people to gain political power. And that's all they're doing. And people that, some of these, dimwits, they'll just march in lockstep with it. They'll hear somebody say, "Oh, I do have the right to choose." And they try to convince you that it's not murder, it's just a fetus, or it's just a zygote, or it's just whatever. It's not a person. No, it's not a person. But that's not really true, because where did you come from, right? You were once that not a person. How do you feel about not being a person at one point, right? Like, I believe that once you sufficiently explain to these people that, yeah, that will be a person soon, very soon, and that you're killing that person, that they'll take a step back and think about it, right? Like, most people with rational brains, which is, the majority of Americans, I say, or have rational thought processes, actually feel like, a very good compromise on this situation is, 12 to 16 weeks. Anything past that, yeah, it's definitely murder, right? But you do have a large percentage, about 20% of people that believe that, you should have the right, your woman's reproductive health care rights, or whatever, your right to choose to murder that child all the way up until the point, and sometimes directly after birth, Yeah, there was politicians out there that actually advocate for this, right? Like I heard a clip the other day from Whoopi Goldberg from The View talking about women's right to choose, and she was throwing all these buzzwords out there, right? And then she goes on to say, and you know what? It's not in the Big Ten. It's not in the Ten Commandments. What? See, once again, using buzzwords and using language to try to convince people that it's not murder. Yes, thou shalt not kill is in the Ten Commandments. That's like one of the main ones, right? Like, of course, they're all main ones, but, you know, that's one of the first ones. So what in the hell is Whoopi Goldberg talking about? That's all they're doing. They're just using manipulative language to try to manipulate people into voting for them. That's all they're doing with gender affirming care, right? We know, anybody that listens to this channel knows that I've said it before, it's not gender affirming care. It's the opposite of gender affirming care, because if you actually affirm their gender, then that would mean I'm a boy, right? I'm a man. I'm a he. And affirming that would be calling me a he. But when you call a little boy a little girl, when you call a he a she, that's not affirmation of their gender. I'm sorry. That is delusional. You are doing the opposite of affirming their gender, but gender affirming care sounds good. It's a buzz phrase, like I said, and they love to use these buzz phrases. And now the left is getting all whipped up in a frenzy again over abortion, right? And they're once again lying. So I know that was quite the long intro, but let's get into the story. As medical perils from abortion bans grow, so do opportunities for Democrats in a post-Roe world. Oh, you're going to love this. For much of her life, Angela Crawford considered herself a fairly conservative Republican. I'm sorry, you can't be conservative and still agree with abortion. It just doesn't work that way. I do understand compromises, and she voted that way. But then a wave of court rulings and Republican-led actions in states restricted abortion and later in vitro fertilization, the very procedure that helped her conceive her daughter. Yeah, I don't agree with that in vitro, that ban on fertilized eggs. Yeah, I don't agree with that whatsoever. I don't think that's right at all, because it's not life until it has, the sperm goes into it or whatever, until it's fertilized and put into a womb. Yeah, I wouldn't consider it life until that point. So what is the big deal with this in vitro fertilization? I haven't really dug too deep into it. I just know that I really don't want to touch that, because that's a very deep conversation to get into. Now, Crawford, 38, is working to gather signatures in her home state of Missouri for a ballot initiative in the fall that would enshrine access to abortion and other reproductive health care. Yeah, I hate that crap, man. And she's voting for Democrats. I wish everyone would realize how big this topic is, Crawford said, of reproductive rights. People really minimize it initially because they didn't realize the scope. Yeah, I think they do realize the scope. That's why you see so many states putting abortion bans on the books, because they see it as murder, because that's what it is once you get past a certain point. Of course, I go back and forth, right? Like, is it life at conception or is it life down the road? Right? Like, I think it's life at conception, to be honest with you. I think it's murder at any point in that. Now, I will concede the fact that, some states don't want to live like that. That's one of the arguments I've heard from other people, like saying it's a morally flawed argument to think, to be pro-life and still agree with like a 12 to 16 week abortion ban, right? Right, like on a federal level, yes, I would agree with that outright on a federal level. It is morally inconsistent to agree with any sort of access to abortion. But the way I look at it, like why I loved Roe v. Wade being overturned, and this is Trump's view on it too, is it kick it to the states, right? Like you would ask this same person that makes that moral argument that says it's morally inconsistent to agree with any type of abortion access, that, okay, well, do you care if Zimbabwe has abortions or not? They'd probably be like, no. Well, there you go. That's how I consider abortion in the United States, right? Like, I'm going to fight tooth and nail to have an abortion ban in Louisiana because that's where I live. That's what I care about. But if you live in California, who am I to tell you what you can do on a federal level, right? Like, I don't think I have the right to tell someone in California that they can't murder their child. I can condemn it, I will think it's wrong, and I will voice my opinion telling them it is wrong. However, I am not going to force that upon people. That is the great experiment of these United States. That's why I love this country, because we are a collection of individual little countries that are all working together for the greater good of our nation. Right? Like, that's something that a lot of people don't agree with. Everybody wants to implement their authoritarian BS on everybody else in the country, right? Like, if the left had their way, we'd have abortions up until and probably past birth, gender affirming care for everybody and all this other stuff, but you can't force that on people, right? Work inside of your state, in your local communities. That's where you have influence. That's where your focus should be when talking about stuff like this, when implementing laws that are going to affect people's lives, right? It should only be in your little area, in your neck of the woods, your state, your parish, our county. We call them parishes in Louisiana because we like to be different. The French Cajuns are insane. They're good people, but they're insane. I can fall under that as well. But that's where I say it's not necessarily morally inconsistent because we are a collection of states. Louisiana does not have the right to implement laws to force California to do something. That's what I believe. That's my convictions. When Roe v. Wade was overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court in 2022, Republicans insisted the ruling would mostly affect those seeking abortions to end unwanted pregnancies. But that hasn't been the case. Women who never intended to end their pregnancies have nearly died because they could not get emergency treatment. Miscarriage care has been delayed. Routine reproductive medical care is drying up in states with strict bans. Fertility treatments were temporarily paused in Alabama. As the fallout grows, so does the opportunity for Democrats. Democratic candidates are increasingly running on the broader reproductive rights issue, and they are seeing results. Yeah, because they are manipulating people with their stupid language. If they would tell these people, hey, you're killing a child, I just want to let you know that you have the right to murder your child, you wouldn't hear an argument from me. Y'all want to go ahead and be insane? Go ahead and be insane. Just don't be manipulative about it and try to indoctrinate normal people into thinking that it's not murder. That's what I don't get, and that's where my gripe is. That's where my criticism is with the left and their language woes. A Texas woman who went into premature labor developed sepsis and nearly died, and a Louisiana woman said restrictive abortion laws prevented her from getting medical help for a miscarriage or campaigning in North Carolina for Democratic President Joe Biden in battleground states. I don't believe that whatsoever. A miscarriage is one thing. A miscarriage is not an abortion. Why would they throw that in there? I'm sorry, those are two totally different things. So here we go again with the corporate press lying to us. Yeah, I'm just now noticing this. I didn't read this whole story earlier, so I'm unprepared for this story. So we're learning it as we go. So I just noticed that can't be true because a miscarriage is not an abortion, right? A miscarriage is not an abortion. Let me say that right, because I'm trying to talk way too fast. So they're lying about that, right? Like, I understand that sometimes the risk to a woman who is pregnant is increased, is at higher risk of losing her life, right? But I don't know of any situation where the baby will absolutely kill the mother, so we should go ahead and absolutely kill the baby, right? Like, why do we have to kill the baby? We have this thing called C-section or cesarean section where they cut the belly open and pull the baby out, right? Like, how else are you going to get the baby out of there once it's past a certain point, right? Like, they're going to have to remove the baby. So why kill it? Just remove the baby. I don't understand that one at all. That's why I hate their manipulative arguments about, oh, well, you're putting the woman's life in danger. How? Why do we have to put the baby's life in danger as well? Right? Like, that's like the joke goes, the most dangerous place for Democrat babies is in their mother's wombs. Right? That's how the joke goes or whatever, but at a Durham community center, blue and red signs with phrases such as "Stop Trump's abortion ban" and "Stop Trump" line the wall behind the speakers. Once again, just outright lies. Donald Trump has said several times he doesn't agree with an abortion ban. The corporate press lied to the American people constantly that, oh, Trump wants an abortion ban. That's why he got Roe versus Wade overturned, right? But that's totally BS. The reason Roe versus Wade was overturned was because that has nothing to do with the federal government. That's a state's issue because the states should have the independence to decide these things for themselves. We don't need Big Daddy federal government to tell us how to live our lives, right? People in this country, if we're going to bring all these cultures and all these different people together, we have to have different places where these people can be with other people that think like they do, right? Can be around their own people. In other words, like Democrats in Democrat states and Republicans in Republican states. We need to have that multiculturalism, I guess, if we want a multiculturalism. If we want these people to come in from all over the world and live here, they have to assimilate into a culture that, yes, you're going to have to deal with, this next state right next door kills their kids, but we don't do that. They also sterilize their kids and call it gender-affirming care. Right? It's just, the federal government imposing bans on abortion or rights to abortion that don't exist, just doesn't make any sense as far as the greater nation. And that's what I'm trying to stress. Like I've stated 1,000 times, abortion to me is murder. But I cannot tell California what to do with their unborn children. Right? I have no right to do that. So Trump has no right to do that. And stop lying about Trump, damn it. Like Trump doesn't want an abortion ban. He puts out videos all the time talking about it. But the corporate press, what do? They say, oh, Trump's abortion ban. Like, no. No, listen to the man for a second. And that's another problem with people in this country. They won't listen to the other side for a single second at all, right? Like, I'll go through the corporate press and I'll listen to all their arguments all the damn time. I'll listen to leftist arguments. I have left-leaning people argue with me in the comment section. I'll listen to their arguments, then I throw logic back at them. And if there is no room to throw logic back at them, then I can't. There's no argument there. I will argue my point, and that's it. There's no logic, just my argument, right? Like, I listen to these arguments, and they don't make sense to me. Most of them don't make logical sense when you think about it. Of course, you can try to work out some logic in this, and that's what I do try to do. I try to stay open-minded, but I can't when you've got these insane thoughts and these insane ideas being thrown at you, and then you have the corporate press freaking lying about it. It just makes me want to scream all the time, I guess. But I've ranted for way too long on this one, y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comment section. Just blows my mind the extent the corporate press will go to lie about Donald Trump. Just blows my freaking mind. But let me know what y'all views on abortion is. Do y'all agree with 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 38 weeks? What is y'all's cutoff date? Is there a cutoff date? Do you think that when your 15-year-old teenager starts screwing up and doing dumb shit, that you should be able to take them out back and just... let me know what you think down in the comment section. Of course, that was a joke, by the way, in case anybody wants to try to clip that and do whatever you want with it. That was a joke. But y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. That's all I got for this one, you guys. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.